Greetings. I am Lenitra Guest, the Director for the Title IV Part A, Subpart 1, Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grant in the Federal Program Compliance Division of the Texas Education Agency. This presentation will provide a Title IV Part A overview containing basic program information, direct links to related information and resources available on the TEA website. This presentation provides general program information and should not be perceived as an all-inclusive listing of all Title IV Part A statutory requirements in the Every Student Succeeds Act, referred to as ESSA in this presentation. The purposes of Title IV, Part A, Subpart 1 is to provide all students with access to a well-rounded education, to improve school conditions for student learning, and to improve technology to enhance academic outcomes and digital literacy of students. Allocations to individual LEAs are determined based on statutory formulas. Several factors affect LEA eligibility for the funding, including census updates, hold harmless amounts, and set-asides for state activities, state-level administration, and charter school funding. The process of determining LEA allocations is detailed in the ESSA Funding Reference Manual that is available in the Handbooks and Other Guidance section of TEA's Finance and Grants website. Entitlement amounts for the current school year for these and other grants are available on the Grants Administration Division webpage. Funding amounts can be found in the ESSA Application Entitlement section of the webpage. LEAs may apply for funding through the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application that is available on the eGrant system. Information on accessing the eGrant system are detailed on the TEA Secure Applications webpage. General information and a sample application are available at the TEA Grant Opportunities webpage. For detailed information, search by the grant application name. The ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application incorporates the LEA plan required by federal statute into the annual application for funding. The ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application serves as a consolidated LEA plan and application for several federal programs, including Title I, Title II, Title III, and Title IV Part A, Student Support and Academic Enrichment Grants. During the design and development of the Title IV Part A, Subpart 1 program, an LEA or consortium of LEAs must engage in consultation with stakeholders in the area served by the LEA. Such stakeholders must include, but are not limited to, the following: parents, personnel, teachers, principals, local government representatives, students, Indian tribes or tribal organizations, community-based organizations, charter school teachers, principals, and other school leaders when applicable. An LEA or consortium of LEAs must continue to consult with the stakeholders identified to improve the activities it conducts and coordinates implementation with other related activities conducted in the community. LEAs must also consult with private school officials to identify the needs of eligible private school students and teachers consistent with equitable services requirements. As the LEA reviews its comprehensive needs assessment and data with stakeholders, it must prioritize the distribution of Title IV Part A funds for schools. The LEA must keep documentation on file which provide data to support schools with the greatest needs as determined by the LEA, schools with the highest percentages or numbers of students from low-income families counted for purposes of the district's Title I Part A Subpart 1 grant. Schools identified for comprehensive support and improvement under Title I Part A. Schools that are targeted support and improvement plans or identified as persistently dangerous public elementary school or secondary schools. The LEA should maintain documented evidence of how the comprehensive needs assessment and priorities were determined. A few selected program requirements are ongoing stakeholder consultation. The LEAs must engage in timely and meaningful consultation with stakeholders in the area served by the LEA to identify relevant, evidence-based activities to carry out the goals of the grant program. An LEA must continue to consult with stakeholders to improve the activities it conducts under Title IV Part A, Subpart 1, and coordinate with other related strategies, programs, and activities. Comprehensive needs assessment. The district must complete a comprehensive needs assessment and include the required stakeholders. The LEA will increase opportunities and access for all students through grade 12 who are members of groups underrepresented, such as female students, minority students, English learners, children with disabilities, economically disadvantaged students, and students in rural, remote, and underserved areas. Another requirement is for the district to provide a description of the funded programs and activities related to supporting a well-rounded education, safe and healthy students, the effective use of technology in schools, and the program objectives and intended outcomes for those activities. The LEA must periodically evaluate the effectiveness of the activities carried out to support the program objectives and the intended outcomes. The LEA must also annually submit a report regarding how funds for the Title IV Part A Subpart 1 program are being used to meet the distribution requirements. The three content areas of the Title IV Part A Subpart 1 program are the same as the program purposes. Well-rounded education for all students, healthy and safe school environments, and improvement in the use of technology. These are important requirements an LEA must meet if it receives an allocation less than $30,000. Provide insurances in at least one of the content areas and prioritization in distribution of funds and documentation of how it was determined. There is no comprehensive needs assessment for LEAs receiving less than $30,000 in Title IV Part A required. If an LEA receives a Title IV Part A allocation greater than $30,000, it must set aside a minimum of 20% in both well-rounded and safe and healthy students' content areas. An LEA may not use more than 15% of the portion of funds identified for the effective use of technology to purchase technology infrastructure, including the purchase of devices, equipment, and software applications to address readiness shortfalls, digital instructional resources, initial professional development activities, and one-time information technology purchases. Purchases for technology infrastructure may not include significant construction or the removal of facilities. The remaining 85% of the funds for this may be used for professional development in the use of technology and data. Field trips may be funded under the Title IV Part A grant program under the following conditions. It's identified in the Comprehensive Needs Assessment. It's included in the Campus Improvement Plan. It's allocable, reasonable, and necessary in order to carry out the intent and purposes of the grant. It includes an instructional activity that cannot be conducted through interactive activities within the classroom or on campus, will result in a positive impact on student improvement, includes instruction that addresses the Texas essential knowledge and skills, and includes an evaluation of the field trip that measures the impact on student achievement. If an LEA plans on using grant funds for field trips, it will be required to complete the appropriate TEA justification form and retain the documentation at the local level. Travel costs to and from a specific and allowable Title IV Part A activity such as a robotics competition or other nonprofit competitions related to STEM subjects are not prohibited and will be evaluated in accordance with federal and state guidance. Out-of-state travel costs are allowable and should be minimal. Travel costs are allowable if the expenses for transportation, lodging, substance, and related items are only incurred for employees on official business of the grantee and follow the grantee's regular business operations and written travel policy. The LEA must keep and maintain documentation so that it may be provided to independent auditors or to TEA monitors if selected for a review. Title IV Part A funds must supplement other state and local funds that would otherwise be available for activities authorized under the program. Grant funds may not be used for the cost of activities and programs that support the purpose of Title IV Part A if it is mandated by state law or rule or the local policy. Districts must review the following to ensure the Title IV Part A activity or expense is supplemental: the Texas Education Code, the Texas Administrative Code, and local board policy. For detailed information about supplement, not supplant, please see the TEA Supplement, Not Supplant Handbook. Before making decisions with Title IV Part A funds, the district should review the ESA Consolidated Application Program Guidelines, program allowable activities, and use of funds. The budget handbook shows, in general, what activities are not allowed by topic. Keep in mind that TEA may request a description of the programs and activities and the acceptable documentation of the use of funds through a compliance report. The LEAs must ensure activities and/or resources are reflected by using these requirements. Are the costs reasonable and follow the LEA's procurement process? Are the costs necessary to carry out the intent and purpose of the Title IV program? Are the funds used in an allocable manner? Meaning the cost is allocable to a project if goods or services involved are chargeable or assignable in accordance with the relative benefits received by the projects. The costs are treated consistently in like circumstances. Are the costs allowable under Title IV Part A, Subpart 1 program? What need is identified in the comprehensive needs assessment? Explain how the expenditure addresses the need. How will the expenditure be evaluated to measure a positive impact on student achievement? How is the expenditure supplemental to other non-federal programs? The LEA ensures that the expenditures meet all Education Department general administrative regulations, the EDGAR requirements. In addition, the LEA must assure that all district policies and procedures are followed. The Title IV federal grant has many allowable uses that fall within the broad categories of well-rounded education opportunities, safe and healthy students, and effective use of technology. TEA has previously awarded Title IV Part A, Subpart 1 grants to LEAs for many purposes that meet the identified needs, including school safety. An increase in federal grant funds should be prioritized to immediately implement school safety improvements on campus, including counseling and mental health programs, addressing ways to integrate health and safety practices into school or athletic programs, and disseminating best practices and evaluating program outcomes related to any LEA activities that promote student safety and violence prevention. A safe learning environment for all students is crucial to advancing the purposes of the Title IV Part A program. The Title IV Part A Subpart 1 programs, activities, and services, which are also mandated by state law, rule, and regulation, the State Board of Education rule, or local board policy, cannot be funded with Title IV Part A grant funds. Unallowable use of funds for this grant program include, but are not limited to, the following: suicide prevention training for personnel and specialized support personnel, mental health first aid training to fulfill required continuing education of personnel, and well-rounded activities and competitions that are university interscholastic league events. As per ESSA, Title IV Part A funds remaining at the end of a grant period are made available to grant recipients through a carryover process. This allows grant recipients to use unobligated balances from the prior fiscal year and the current grant year. TEA grant administration staff calculate carryover amounts after the grant is closed and make the funds available to eligible grant recipients through their current approved applications. There is no percent threshold for carryover. An LEA has 27 months to expend the funds. LEAs are required to comply with the uniform provisions for providing equitable services to private nonprofit schools as specified under Title VIII, Section 8501 of ESSA. They must provide timely and meaningful consultation. A signed consultation affirmation form is required from all LEAs with participating private nonprofit schools. The PS 3099 Private School Equitable Services Schedule is located in the ESSA Consolidated Application in eGrants. This form incorporates a formula for determining private nonprofit school services. All LEAs must submit the PS 3099 and indicate if private nonprofit schools are participating or not. All educational services or other benefits, including materials and equipment, shall be secular, neutral, and non-ideological. The LEA must always ensure control of funds and title to all materials, equipment, and property purchased. All purchases belong to the LEA and should be documented on its inventory list and labeled prior to private school use. Upon certification and submission of the ESSA Consolidated Federal Grant Application, LEAs certify that they will comply with all requirements noted in statute. All requirements may be found in the program-specific provisions and assurances posted on the TEA Grant Opportunities page. The Federal Program Compliance Monitoring consists of reviewing program objectives, monitoring allowable use of funds, and assessing the achievement of the district's performance and program expectations. The Federal Fiscal Monitoring Division is responsible for monitoring the expenditures of federal grant recipients to ensure federal funds are used for authorized purposes in compliance with federal statutes, regulations, and the terms and conditions of federal awards. The ESSA Consolidated Compliance Report is completed by districts annually to document that they have complied with the program-specific provisions and assurances in the preceding application year. LEAs are responsible for indicating the sources of documentation used to establish compliance. The documentation is to remain on file at the LEA. However, it must be readily available upon request from TEA for audit and/or validation monitoring purposes. You can find additional resources on our TEA Title IV Part A webpage. Here are additional resources that are available on TEA's webpage. Coming soon, we will be posting the TEA Title IV Part A Subpart 1 Program Guide. I have included some USDE resources that will help you as you work to plan and design your Title IV Part A program. As a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, additional flexibility in the administration of federal grant programs is likely to be issued by the U.S. Department of Education. Any additional flexibility for the Title IV Part A Subpart 1 program that is available to LEAs related to COVID-19 will be provided on TEA's Grant Compliance and Administration page. If you have questions, you may contact me at the division phone number listed or the division email address of ESSA support at tea.texas.gov. Thank you.